Hi, Scott. Welcome to the Genetic Genius podcast. I'm so excited to have you as a guest today on the show. I'd like to jump right in and can you tell our listeners a little bit about you, what you do, and your impact on the planet?
Wow, great question. Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's really a pleasure to be here. And it's always fun to talk about the things that we love, right? So Sun Potion is essentially a passion project of mine we're in our 10th year right now. We're based in Santa Barbara, California. And essentially we've created a project around this idea of offering people best quality, mostly single ingredient, mostly concentrated extracts of tonic herbs and adaptogens. And these are things that are water soluble. They're often in kind of a chemically potentized way. So they're plant information that the body can understand and we can make use of that sort of augments the chemistry that's already happening in our body as essentially a really easy way to feel good. And these are plants which generally you could say are things that you have a little bit every day over the course of, you could have them over the course of a long life, many of them. And they're things that just kind of titrate little bit of that beneficial plant chemistry to, again, augment and support our adaptability, our stress responses, our hormone balance. It kind of helps to govern many different systems in the body.
Awesome. Those are some of my favorite herbs. Being a lover of the plant kingdom myself, I'm so excited to talk more about some of these delectable herbs that you have. Can you tell our listeners too, I think you said you grew up in Minnesota, is that right?
This is true. I grew up really close to nature in Minnesota. I was fortunate to have the experience of actually getting to grow up on a lake.
Wow.
So we had, full volume, 4 seasons, the fall, the winter, the spring, the summer, everything. And all the cycling of nature as seen from the shore of this beautiful lake, and migratory patterns of birds, weather phenomenon, really, really cool experience. So again, lover of plants, absolutely, lover of nature. My mother, I'm happy to say, is really connected to nature, and so she helped bestow a lot of that on myself and my sister growing up.
Oh, nice. That's great. My husband's family is from Minnesota, and so I always get to hear about all the little wonderful things about it.
It's a wonderful place in the world.
How did you start to develop or this passion for the plant kingdom? Like, where did it stem from? Did you just wake up one day and oh my gosh, I want to learn all about plants? Like, did you have this, ignite in your system?
Well, I had a background in really liking pushing myself to limits in both high school and collegiate sports and endurance kind of thing. So I was really into cross-country running, cross-country skiing. I was on the U.S. triathlon team when I was 19.
Oh,
Actually finished
cool.
5th in the world at the time.
Whoa.
In Calais, France for duathlon. And that was all during college athletics too. And so I was rolling strong on a major endorphin kick for a solid decade probably of my developmental years, from middle school through college. And so I loved those feelings of just being really out there on the edge of performance and having full body chemistry just kicking and doing its thing. And the sensory feeling of that, of just the ecstatic high of feeling great a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. And when I moved to California after school, I really did phases of yoga. I did some other things for my body, but I essentially stopped doing all those endurance type things. And flash forward, some time goes by, I end up finding myself living in Ojai and kind of off the grid situations. And I got really interested. I'm sort of an eccentric person that really gets submerged into different things. So I'll take it to the absolute edge. And so in my Ojai time, I was really able to drop in with some different spiritual teachings and energetic practices and Eastern practices and learn about gung fu tea and essential oils and wild harvesting of plants. And through some of these spiritual practices, which also, by the way, oftentimes really felt great. So there's like a pattern going on here. You know, I was actually, from time to time, I would get feedback or advice from the teachers to like look for certain herbs that could help augment and support the practices that we were doing. And it wasn't really that they were so much available on the market, but they were like, hey, if you could find these are really great. And for me, I took that as just, I wanted always like the bigger, better, faster, quickest path, right?
Yeah,
so I'm
exactly.
like, yeah, herbs are gonna help. Let's get herbs.
Yeah,
And
they're gonna elevate me to enlightenment.
yeah. I'm like, I want straight, direct pathway here. And so essentially, I went out looking for them, and with a lot of bravado and enthusiasm, and either found encapsulated versions. Sometimes could find those herbs existing in some existing like formulations in encapsulated versions. Sometimes I could find those herbs in whole plant, dried and powdered form from like a mountain rose herbs, that kind of thing.
Right.
Which, if you start understanding about plant chemistries, it's like that material is great. You have to do something to it to get the potency out of it. So it still has all the fiber, it has all the matrix of the plant material. So those are cool to like make tinctures with or make tea with or things like that. But when I started, and I knew a little bit about extraction methods and concentrated ways to like concentrate plant chemistry. I have a background in schooling and science, and I had a scientific household. So we had conversation. You know, my dad was a dentist, and I'd be like working in dental labs in the summer and these things. So I have a love for the sort of laboratory and science chemistry aspect of these plants, which, you know, in some cases can be profound. We have, like, for instance, this, where is it? This is a liquid of extract of this Mucuna pruriens, but the powder concentrated version, which was really one of these first plants that I was told to go look for, and I found out about this concentrate, I couldn't find it anywhere. And I'd be asking different sources and places to find them. Well, eventually, you know, you go down the rabbit hole and end up getting into conversations where it's like, well, okay, back to Mucuna. This concentrate has 15% levodopa, which is, L-dopa is the chemical precursor to dopamine in the neurotransmitter cascade.
Exactly.
So I'm like, whoa, like, this is a food that's a plant that then we can make a concentrate out of that concentrates the plant chemistry, so that then you get this bioavailable, essentially food that's going to feed and nourish healthy dopamine levels. And I'm going, oh, I know from my meditation, that's like all the bliss and the contentment and the ease and the joy and the satisfaction. I'm like, I could get down with this Mucuna. Like, yeah, it's going to be really good. And so that was a grail thing that I heard about that took some time to find. But when I did, I was so excited about it. And so, you know, you kind of you're getting a little bit of a window into the picture of this curiosity, passion, chemistry, drive to feel good, quickest, easiest, fastest possible.
Yeah.
And also having very little fear of like deep levels of commitment through doing these practices and stuff. So all this stuff was kind of training me and forming me to be able to learn how to have a business as an exercise to have a project which essentially I could make some of these rare and special materials more available to people if they were interested in them, and thereby would essentially make them easier for myself to have access to.
right? That's always a bonus.
And, there's like, it all sort of starts to weave together. And the next thing you know, 10 years are rolling strong. So I don't know. That's a
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
in brief.
Yeah, no, I really love, Scott, how you bring the science and the plant kingdom together, which is like one of my biggest passions. How can we elevate the body, the DNA, the mind, everything to help us feel better every day? And the plant kingdom is so readily available for that. But I think you hit the key point too, is that it has to be a high bioavailable product that our body can just like suck in and just like, and take us to that next level of the bliss, as you said.
Absolutely. And these are all multidimensional topics. So when the last days of Ojai, there were these moments of being like, oh my goodness, we could talk about like one piece of this meditation practice and explode it into a topic of deep discussion about essential oils, or about Ayurvedic 5-elemental approach to the body and nature and plants and our environment, or almost anything, or even practices of, the micro of the brain chemistry exploding out into the experience of the individual spirit, these kind of different multidimensional levels. And so also something that was happening because of the dives into the spirit practices is that I was really open and available to, when I had access to really high quality examples of these bioavailable concentrated extracts of these legend, like lineage keeper epic plants that have been in aid and service and compatible work and partnership with humanity for some of them, these eons of time, 3,000-5,000 years of
totally.
art history. And, it's got to go on beyond that into the ages. And now here we are today in a time and an age when I can call a grower in China or in India or at the lab or, places where we have things handmade for us, and can be a part of those processes all around the world. And we can pull them together here and then make them available as a thing that, just is sort of innocuous. It's like sits on the shelf at Erewhon or at your local grocer. But really there's a lot more going on in the depths of it. And although it's maybe not to the available eye, it might be obvious, but there's syntax and coding and number sequences and divine symmetries and things that are consciously put into the way that things are organized on the website, on the label, on the branding, on these different things, so that they can speak on a certain level to our human race, consciousness, spirit, memory, whatever you want to call it. I think that is probably, if we're available to it, accessible by all of us. And kind of give people some access to it. And then you bring in these herbs that are really, they each have like a deep spiritist, like history or lineage that they are a part of. And there's, in these lineages, there's devas of plants, essentially like plant superheroes, like deities of plants that come in aid and work with humanity or work with individuals to help them to overcome life's challenges or not be susceptible to the kind of common dross of the day, or the flu,
a bigger planetary impact, so to speak. I love that too, where you're talking about having every part of your product is there's a thought behind it, to the activation within a sacred geometry or words on the label, activating the plants. And that's how we can make a shift when you take the product, right? It's like and sometimes people don't know about all those little steps.
They don't need to know.
They don't need to know, right? They don't need to know. They're just gonna feel it.
Well, somebody said, asked the question, or occasionally we get like, I'll be giving a talk or something, we'll get a question of like, I don't believe in this stuff. And the simple answer or simple response to that has always been like, it's cool. You don't have to believe in it.
Right.
You just have to take a little bit every day, and then you can feel what it's going to feel like. And because of the sensory, tactile, kind of experiential nature of a lot of these materials, we can rely on individuals' sensory experience to speak to them and validate the quality,
Right.
the efficacy, the science, the, whatever it is. So
Yeah, oh, that makes total sense. And one thing I wanted to talk to you about too was, since we're kind of like in this mode of the history of the products, is I noticed that you have a lot of different kind of like you have some Ayurvedic products and some traditional Chinese medicine style of products coming in from different plant kingdoms. And I wondered if you could just talk a little bit about what your inspiration was drawing in from that history of that lineage, so to speak, as you talked about before. Just because I love that you are bringing in, not just one type of plant medicine from one specific area, but it's very universal and global. And I just wanted to see if you could speak about that a little bit too.
Great question. You have great questions. There are every healing model, every therapeutic tradition of using plants to heal the body from around the world, whether we're talking African shamanism or North American indigenous medicines, or big ones like major Ayurveda, Taoist, tonic herbalism, that then sort of feeds into Chinese TCM kind of thing. These different traditions, they largely provide medicinal, medical treatments of symptoms and problems. That's mostly what these systems are for. And so medicinal plants are interesting in the sense that their chemistries work with the body to do very specific things. They have like a single push or drive that they do something specific in the body. And so when you're working with medicinal plants, these things need to be had in formulations usually. Because if you're pushing one way, you got to do something else to kind of balance and
balance
not
it out.
imbalance. Yeah, exactly. You rise, you got to counterbalance, so that you're not imbalancing the body. You often need to have supervision. So even a master in an herbal tradition might have somebody else read their pulse and prescribe their herbs for them, because somebody else's perception of what's going on is probably more clear. And then and you don't take them forever, because they'll imbalance things. Like simplest off the shelf example, like an echinacea boost the immune system, but you don't take it all the time, or it will boost, and then you'll have an immune system collapse because it'll just be fatigued.
Right, too much. Yeah.
And so you take an echinacea for a few weeks during a cold season crisis, whatever.
Right.
And then you get off of it and you get over it and you don't take it anymore. Well, something like a tonic herb that supports the suppleness and the strength and the pliability and the modulation and response of a healthy dynamic immune system, that is going to be chemically supported in a way that is like, tonic herbs are different than medicinal herbs. Okay, now I skipped a step here, but tonic herbs
we can talk all about tonics.
Tonic herbs are different than medicinal herbs in the sense that these are plants that you can have every day.
Yep.
You can have them every day.
The system.
Yeah, you can have them by themselves, and there's some varying opinion about that, depending on whose lineage you're talking to, Chinese medicine person or what have you. But you can have them ongoing. They're safe practically for everybody. You can, for different ranges of ages, for different ranges of states of health. They really meet people where they're at. They're something you can give to someone who is relatively unhealthy, air quotes, on their spectrum of like their journey of health. And someone who's got an incredibly refined systematic approach to their body's health. You can give it to either person. These plant chemistries are in tonic herbs are not typically found in foods. They're things that often our bodies make anyways.
Right.
So the adding them in through having them as tonic herbs does not interrupt the body's natural production of these things. When I take the mucuna, it doesn't stop me from producing levodopa naturally.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Not everything's like that. You know, if you take melatonin, your body will stop. If you take it consistently, your body will stop producing that. So it's not advised. Don't take that supplement all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But with tonic herbs, though, they don't do that. It's like chemistry available to the body that if the body needs it, it plugs into these different receptor sites, sometimes affecting many different things in the body.
Right. All the different systems at it, a
Hormone
tonifier, it's like, it
systems,
can tonify everything.
hormonal systems, sexual
Yep.
functions,
Mm-hmm.
immune functions,
Nervous
mood.
system.
Yeah, it's soothing, just like nourish, build, adaptability, fortify, suppleness, and soothe. Like, these are all things I want in my life.
Exactly. That's why we formulate stuff, right? Because we want to be able to use it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I wanted to talk about formulating because you kind of like made that light bulb go off in my brain. So what's your process when you formulate? Like, I want to, if you can just like walk me through, like, do you, set up crystals or have, do meditation? Do you pull things off the shelf? Like, I just like, can you set the vibe for the listeners when you're into this like new formula mode and everything's like downloading?
One thing I want to step back one step.
Yeah.
Complete the previous thought by saying all those different healing lineages and modalities.
Oh yes.
They're made up mostly of medicinal herbs, and we just described what those do. But in each of these traditions, there's like a tiny category of plants that they maybe describe them in different ways, but essentially they're tonic herbs in the sense that they can be had every day. They can be had by almost anyone. They are meant to be had over the course of a long life. They're things that help the system be both more robust as well as more supple and adaptable. They generally, like you were saying, tonify the body systems. They chemically support the body. If your body doesn't need the chemistry, by the way, it doesn't use it. It's just like no big deal. It just goes in.
It's like, I didn't need that, but thank you. I'll just move on to tomorrow. Maybe I'll need it tomorrow.
Right, yeah. And characteristically, these are things that through consistently having them, they build the chemistry like a carrier wave in the body to where there starts to be this like locomotion of resilience that you sort of just almost, in my personal experience, I would have these early on and through different times, I'd have these rising feelings of like rising above the fray of the static of what a lot of us just have to deal with in our surroundings, and just kind of being like in a clear air above that and being able to go through my day and not be so swept around by either what was going on in my head or my surroundings or my this or that, what have you. So
yeah, the plant kingdom can totally do that. It can elevate us into a place of a different level of consciousness, because it's like they can communicate. I think you were talking a little bit about that. It's like they communicate with us on a different level. And from that long history of their knowledge from the cellular impact, then comes in and is able to give this new cellular information to us. Like, hey, this is what I used to do. And remember this? And our bodies remember, that DNA pattern remembers how, we used to use it like 20 million years ago or whatever. And so, that's what brings us into this new space. And we're like, oh yeah, I can use that. And look how it helps me today.
Right. I mean, look at this. You have sun potion, these Isis wings, transformational foods. These are plants which are intended to chemically support, augment, and like work with the body on all kinds of different layers that maybe you can go into understanding. You don't necessarily have to, but there's a transformational thing that's happening through having them a little bit every day and over the course of time. Maybe you start with one, but maybe add others. We asked about formulation and formulating, and I'll say that I think there's 48 products in the line right now.
It's
And
a
we have
lot.
yeah, and it's a lot of fun is what it is.
Yeah.
And we have a few, there's a handful of them that are in the pipeline. They're all formulated, ready to go. Just some production waiting, and there'll be a few more. But so essentially, I always, these plants, and I found that they really nourished like the subtle potentialities in my body. So my intuition, my discernment, my like sensitivity of how things felt when I would take them, being able to like start getting really saturated in the material, and then have an like internal knowing of quality, so I can like look at material and just on a sensory level, people and anybody can do this. You can tell the difference between a quality spirulina or chlorella and a not quality spirulina or chlorella. Mix the two and look at them, smell them, taste them. It's there. It's in your body.
Exactly. Yeah, the vibration is different. Everything.
Yeah, you have all these sensory, tactile organs which are highly refined and powerful. And so, I mean, for me, I can say that I've been heavily supported in having access to have them on a regular basis over the course of now, like some of them 12, 14 years. And so when I started the project of Sun Potion, there was kind of these moments where I was already taking a lot of these herbs on a regular basis myself. And there were moments where it was like popping into a room, like popping your head through the floor in a room, and somebody turns on all the lights, or somebody, you're in a black room and somebody flicks the lights on for a second, and you like look around in this grand like ballroom with like all kinds of details and things going on, and then they just turn the lights off. It made it so easy because it's like it already exists and I already saw it. I saw it, and now we're just going to go follow intuition to like see that thing exercise and carry out its own flowering of what it already happened. There's these overlapping timelines where it's like, for whatever reason, I had an opportunity to just like see forward in the timeline and see all these things already happening. And then from there, it was just my responsibility to maintain standards, principles, values, do the work. I mean, there's a huge amount of like actual work that happens in here.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. And then I have to learn all the ancillary things that go along in making a project like that available.
Yeah.
And then I also have to have the responsibility myself too of basically, I don't make products for other people. I don't make products for the market. I don't look at the market. I actually don't want to know what other brands in our space are doing. For one thing, I tend to be critical, so I don't want to like be judgmental, you know.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things like I don't even want to try it. I don't want to know because I'm just following my creative intelligence and my access to like my understanding of these materials and how they've helped my body, and then how they chemically can work with people's bodies in general. And if it really rings my bell and it feels like it's a yes, then it happens. And if it is good in 1,000 ways and that isn't the case, there's no chance it's happening.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not happening. It's not happening.
Not happening. Yeah, totally. Yeah. When it doesn't line up correctly in 100% alignment, it doesn't follow through, right?
As an example, like we don't do anything with CBD, and there's nothing wrong with CBD. I have CBD and it's in the pantry over there from other friends' brands or whatever. But it's just a no. It's a no for. I mean, we can go into all the reasons why, but it's just on an intuitive level, on a banking level, on a like just all kind of logistics level, 100 things.
Yeah, no, that sounds like you really have the vision, you know, and the vision stays clear, which I really appreciate that when it comes to your products. And let's talk a little bit about, so there's three things I know you wanted for us to talk about today. The tonics, which we talked a little bit about, but if there were some specific ones you wanted to talk about, of course, I have some faves. And then the adaptogens. And then I totally want to talk about the new line with the elixirs. So let's make sure we get to those. That's a lot of stuff. So maybe we could talk a little bit about like your favorite tonic and go from there if you want, or did you have a specific, I see some.
How about you guide me and you
Okay.
tell me what your favorite tonic is, and I'll tell you as much as I can about it, or something like that. We want to try that?
Yes, that's awesome. Okay, so
Okay,
I love the Prash, the Tonic Ambrosia. That's like my jam. And so if you want to go from there, that would
see, this
great.
is going to be way more fun. This is gonna be way more fun. Okay, so the Prash, affectionately truncated word of Indian Charwan Prash. This is a intuitive, off-the-cuff California Prash. And then Tonic Ambrosia. And what's ambrosia is like the amrita, the like chemistry that drips from the, you know,
from the lotus flower.
Like, yeah, all that juicy like nectar from the divine that is like super connective and heart-opening, and can have access to some of those things, sometimes by complete accident, sometimes through making love, sometimes it happens and you don't understand what it was, it just felt really good. Right. But there's practices and there's things that you can do to cultivate these things also. And so that is, anyways, wordplay that came through from the Ojai days. Essentially, the Prash was a fun treat, like I said, intuitively just made off the cuff for a potluck. And I just basically brought this bowl of goo. So it's biodynamic ghee from our friends at India Organics.
Divine or something? Divine Organics. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mateo up in Berkeley.
Awesome.
Really nice people. So those guys, and then local wildflower honey from San Ynez, which is like a wine valley just on the other side of the mountain.
Yum.
And then about 10 different herbs, 10 different tonic herbs. So, you know, there's like Mucuna pruriens and ashwagandha. They basically just like made this stuff that's like a goo, that's like a cajeta, like a Mexican caramel.
Oh, because, yeah.
Like, what would candy be if you made candy with like the dankest stuff? It would be like this kind of a thing. It's essentially caramel with like really strong amount of tonic herbs stacked in it. And you take it as like a teaspoon size little dab of it and just eat it, like let it melt in your mouth. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of an interesting material because it's both like really thick and it's sticky, but it also is like has so much ghee in it that it's like slippery, so it will like slide off of a metal knife, but it'll like, I don't know, stick to the side of a bowl or something.
Right.
So that you can take it and you can have it like that teaspoon size, just in a teacup of warm water. Mm-hmm. And essentially you have healthy fat, a healthy sweetener. I'm not much into sweet, but if honey's pretty good.
Yeah, honey's great.
Yeah, so you got healthy fat, healthy sweet, and then 10 different tonic herbs stacked in there. And you have like a perfect little, it's like the fats are all emulsified, it like kind of was all suspended in there.
Mm-hmm. Through the medium to help it soak right into your system. I love the fats because it goes right into the buccal membrane, and you're like, it's almost like liposomal, right? You're like,
absolutely, not like liposomal. It is liposomal.
Yeah.
Like you just gave the body a vehicle. When you put a healthy fat, like in your warm drink in the blender, or if you put the herbs actually in like a butter or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And then put it on your toast or put it on something.
Yeah.
You know, you're linking those herbs to the fat, and they metabolize and process through the body with the fat.
Yeah, and the liposomal or a fat carrying product is the best because, you know, with the a biphospholipid layer, the cell just goes like right in. So it's like all the cells, it's like they're just singing with this happy song, like, yeah, you did it, you
Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
did it.
And then a close second is the tequila option, which is like you're linking the herbs with your alcohol, and then that one's like going through a whole different kaleidoscope spin into the liver and the bloodstream that
Right,
way.
that's a whole different medium.
Yeah,
Right.
but also that it's like you do that. I mean, you can do it with sugar too, but direct the herbs to the pathway that you want them in.
Awesome. That was great. Yeah. And for the listeners out there, if you haven't tried that product, I totally recommend it. It's going to change your life.
And in closing of that, I made it for a potluck. It was really fun. Everybody loved it. Then like 6 months later, I made it for holiday gifts for like the buyers of some of the local grocery stores and stuff, just the people we were already doing business with. And one of them, the like legendary OG buyer from this really great Air One grocery store out here named Vicky, she would call me like every week or two and be like, "You got another jar of that for me? Think you could drop it off?" Like
okay.
And essentially it became a product because Vicky asked for it so much. I was like, "Okay, Vicky, we'll just make it for you." Okay.
There you go. Well, that's how some things happen sometimes. It's like when people want it enough, you're like, okay, I'm going to make it. Great. Okay, let's move into the adaptogens. And I wanted you to talk about the pine pollen because I don't know a lot about pine pollen, and it's just kind of this, like, I don't know, this whole different like realm of plant world that I wanted you to discuss with our listeners, which I think is really cool.
Pine pollen is amazing. I mean, think on a what is it for the plant level? You're looking at these mason pine trees that are 100 plus feet tall, and when the cycle is like they're propagating and they flower and they've got all this pollen on their pine cones and they're flowering. I mean, it literally comes off like in clouds. And when it's harvested, they're essentially just putting these thin fabric kind of cloth bags over the boughs. They attach something to the base of the tree and just shake it basically, or they attach it to the bough and it just shakes and it just explodes powder off of it.
Whoa.
It's like chlorella in that it has a hard chitin shell, so you have to break that. So they crack the cell wall. They have a process for that, and essentially the chemistry that's inside is like chlorella, is a complete food. It has all 8 essential amino acids. In the case of pine pollen, it has like 100 non-essential amino acids. All these bioflavonoids, different color pigment things. It's a very hormonal food. Why is that? Well, for that pine tree, that's the male genetic material of the pine tree.
Exactly.
It's like tree sperm.
Right, yeah. So you're getting this like nectar from the tree, and it's like pure form as it's giving off the pollen to procreate more pine trees.
Yeah. And so let's start from that premise, and then we're going to work our intuition into nature here and go, if that's the case, what might that support in our body, our human body?
Right. Well, of course, sexuality and our reproductive system and the hormones and like this lifelong existence on the planet, because it's like procreating more and more and more life.
Amazing. That's a great description. I love it. Exactly. And so these are, it's essentially the chemistry that is bringing to the body is like strong androgen plant hormones.
Exactly.
Which are not only, they're bioidentical to our human androgen testosterone. And there's chemical precursors to those things too in the pine pollen. So essentially you're getting precursors to testosterone and actual physical bioidentical testosterone to our human testosterone, but it's coming from a plant. So this is, on a properties level, this is excellent for decisiveness, like clarity, decision making. Think of like the sort of, that's like a kind of on a metaphysical level or something. Those are just kind of like androgen properties, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And we can, a woman or a man can also have these, express these properties or qualities, and likewise can enjoy the pine pollen. And essentially they're going to be building and working with the supplies of androgen hormones, testosterone in the body. And it's okay, men or women, because we have a balance, right? Now in this country, we have many men are emasculated hormonally because we have a lot of, quote unquote, air quotes again, bad estrogens in our food system.
Right.
If you look at soy or flax or BPAs in plastic or cans or things like these, all of these carry like massive amounts of xeno and phytoestrogens, which are kind of like imposter estrogens that raise our estrogen level, which then makes the testosterone level go down. So like the men of 1900, my great-grandfather was born in 1901. His father was like a lumberjack in northern Minnesota. You know, these guys were like
hardcore.
burly. Yeah, these were burly. These are almost different animal to what we have from, hormonally speaking, to what we have for modern day men. So something like the pine pollen can be really a relief for men, for women. Those properties are like mental clarity, decision making, embodying, like physical feeling in your body. It's great for meditation practices. Sometimes people will do it together because it's also bringing like a lot of sensuality, a lot of kind of aphrodisiac chemistry, and these kind of things. And I don't know, I mean, I don't know about you, but like feeling good and feeling like good aphrodisiac kind of things, feeling good in my body and just feeling physically good, and then like sensually, like aphrodisiac wise, like feeling good that way. These are pretty, I mean, we're talking like similar territories here. In other words, like everything's working,
everything's
like
good,
upright, there's good circulation, you know, our perception is more acute, these kinds of things. And so whether it's we're wanting to address chemistry in the body to help support our dance with the alchemy and the spirit of life, or whether we're wanting to support our body chemically with the dance and the alchemy and the spirit of our sensuality with, say, a partner, the pine pollen is like an awesome.
I love that. That's great. Thank you so much. I learned so much about pine pollen. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Yeah. And you know, to comment on what you said, I mean, my purpose in every day is to feel the best that I can. And that's how I feel about being on the planet. I'm like, I'm here to feel good. I want to feel good, have a good day, love life. Like, and if that's not happening, I'm going to take something, whether it's an herb, supplement, air, water, meditation, yoga, whatever it is, to elevate me to feel the best that I can. Because I feel like otherwise, why am I here? You know? We
have this really cool freight truck that's all wrapped with the branding and stuff of the brand, and on the back roll-up door of it, it's just kind of like a semi-truck kind of thing. And on the back roll-up door of it, it just has the big wings along the top, and then on the bottom it just says, "We want you to feel amazing."
Oh yeah, I love it. It has that on your website too. We want you to feel amazing. That's so great.
Yes.
Yeah.
First occurring on the truck, later made its way into the website and other places.
That's great. Okay, let's talk about the Transcendent Elixirs, and this is your new line, and they look amazing. Do you have a favorite one of those you want to talk about that you're like super into today?
So essentially, I'll just give you a little bit of background.
Yeah, talk about first about the makeup, because I think that would be important for the listeners about what they are exactly.
Yeah, I'm really proud of these. The kind of intention and the like layers of work that went into even just creating the ingredients that went in to be able to make the things themselves was really kind of immense, and it's just awesome to like see what the result is here, because essentially these are 3 different kinds of concentrates of one plant in one bottle.
Right.
And what we're doing with that is you could call it a Vedic, Ayurvedic like
Like a
Indian.
doshic
al-
kind of
al-
application.
well, it's more like a Vedic alchemy approach
Mm,
to um, encapsulating the potency of a particular plant by
mm,
making different kinds of extracts and
mm-hmm,
then stacking them together in such a way that they um, you're concentrating windows of a whole picture so
mm-hmm.
that in a whole circle you might hyper concentrate like portions of that whole picture, and
Right.
then you recombine those concentrates in a way that allows for the alchemy to take place. And one of the concentrates, for example, speaking of alchemy, is actually a mineral ash of the plant material.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is my best part. I love
So
this.
it's like and these ingredients are being made specifically for this project by hand in a lab in India.
Oh,
That's
wow.
kind of a really cool friendship that's been created over the last couple of years.
Uh-huh.
And essentially, like wood fire oven, kiln, underground, they're taking like clay vessels, urn. Um, Imagine like it's an ashwagandha tincture we're going to make. So we're going to
Right.
make the concentrated mineral extract of the ashwagandha and the way ash of the ashwagandha. And the way we're going to do that is take dried, cut, and sifted ashwagandha plant material. We're going to put it into the urn and pack it completely full. Put the lid on, put mud around it so it's sealed, and
Mm-hmm.
lower it down with trains down into this kiln under the ground, and it incinerates the plant material. It doesn't combust. There's not actually oxygen to have it be burning inside of
Right.
that urn. It actually
Like
just,
compresses it.
yeah, it's so hot it just crumbles down to
Wow.
dust. And they take that out and they sift it. They remove the larger pieces or bigger bits, whatever, and they
Mm-hmm.
basically keep getting it. They do it 3 times until they get down to this really fine ash of the plant material. And
Mm-hmm.
that what that essentially is like the sulfur or the kind of the chalice, the vessel like of the plant. If you take the plant living out of the ground, it has a matrix, it has a cellulose, it has a
Mm-hmm.
fiber, it has like
Right.
there's some bones to that plant that allow the rest of the plant to happen around the structure. And so in this way, we're taking the mineral matrix of those bones and we're preserving them, and then we're having them in the elixir formulation to make a vessel for then the other concentrates to sit inside of. And so
Mm-hmm.
the supercritical CO2 that we're putting in, and then which is basically like a fat extract, almost like an essential oil or something like that of the
Yep.
plant material, and then an ethyl alcoholic kind of extract that's like a thick, dark, resinous paste, like a
Whoa.
tar. So
Yeah.
we're taking this material that's like motor oil, and then like a resinous tar, and then like a fine, kind of silty, sandy ash,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're combining them in water with a little bit of honey and a little bit of 190 proof like organic grape alcohol. It's an ingredient to
Right.
preserve the plant materials. It's not
Mm-hmm.
for extracting their properties, it's to preserve them.
Right.
And the honey is there as a delivery, but also to temper the
Mm-hmm.
flavors and to kind of just to help with the overall alchemy of things. And the project was getting these very different constituent parts to like stand up together
Mm-hmm.
and homogenize and be like suspended in such a way that they would fall out of suspension. They're going to like stay like that in the bottle and that kind of thing. And essentially what you're getting is, well, my understanding is that they practically are shelf stable like forever. We probably
Wow.
will we have to label them with an expiration, but they
Right.
essentially, everything that I can tell, and from the first batch of R&D that was done in like June, July of 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have some of those. Those are better now, in my personal opinion,
Mm.
than they were when they were
They've
fresh.
been
And
simmering with excellence. It's like getting better and
yeah,
better.
yeah, and so there's some and also definitely within the first few days of making them. By the way, we make these, I make them in-house in a
That's
laboratory
awesome.
we have in our facility.
Yeah.
And so like springtime last year was an exercise in like procuring nutraceutical and pharmaceutical grade lab equipment to be able to do that process of getting those separate pieces to be able to stand and suspend together.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really fun. That's like one of my favorite things to do. Sourcing, the relationships, the chemistry, the geeking out on like how these things work with the body, and like getting at keeping all the standards together of like how we make decisions with the brand. That's really my specialties. And then there's things like the formulating, which is, if a person really understands a plant material, they can understand how to make things with it. So like making that Prash, I didn't have to even think about it. We just made it.
Right. Just throw it together, because it's like divine. It's like when plant material that comes, it's like making a special sauce, it's like everything just comes together in this magical way, and the plants create a relationship with each other that is then, they deliver that, the message or the intervention.
And I mean, I received a profound amount of assistance and support and help with, like I said, we've become friends with the lab.
Yeah.
And so to be getting feedback and things from them on and working with them directly is just awesome. So, but we buy the 3 pieces.
And then you put it together.
And then we figure out how to make what
so
it
cool.
is.
I love
and
it.
essentially, these are called the Transcendent Elixirs. Transcendent, if you look it up, is like, essentially it says like beyond the scope of normal human like range,
right?
Like the threshold of like how far you can go in your experience. Transcendent is to go beyond that and to step into realms of like into the divine or into spirit. And so in the formulating and in the R&D, was with a dear friend, and we're working on making this stuff happen. And now we have the 3 constituent pieces of the concentrates, all of which have very different properties and taste and stuff. Right. So we're eating those.
Yeah.
And then we're mixing them. And then we're eating that. And then we're like, imagine like a big glass beaker of just this R&D batch. And we're like long plastic pipettes, and we're just like spraying them in each other's mouths, like from across the room. And we got to a frothy state where we were laughing so hard we couldn't stop. And we were like, oh, wow.
This is what they are.
Like, we're going to have people spontaneously like changing state from solid to like light waveforms. Having spontaneous like, these kind of spontaneous like, I don't know, ascension moments or something like that, like popping into it and coming back. Which is really like, first of all, is a lot of fun. And secondly is, why not? We're here in these bodies to like exercise and see where we can go with them. And then having something like this, which is so powerful of the plant, that then you can actually really feel it. I mean, you can really feel it. Something I love doing when we had a big plan to do 2020 workshops, 20 workshops in 2020 this year, and got to a great start. Little disruption with the COVID.
Little glitch.
Yeah, but maybe that'll come back on by the end of the year. We'll see. But having a workshop with 20 or 30 or 50 people, whatever, and taking and pouring out Topo Chicos for everyone, and then doing like 2 or 3 dropperfuls.
Yeah.
Each one of these 5. So the 5 are Bacopa. This is cognitive, cognitive brain function, memory, oxygenate the brain.
I love Bacopa. It's so great for the brain.
Great for geriatrics, great for creativity, for study, focus, all kinds of things. Shatavari, incredibly supportive, not only for women, but also for men, for the life force, for hormone balance, for women, it's characteristically known as like this thing to help balance monthly cycles and things like that.
Right, very cyclic.
Very powerful. And so You got those two. And then Mucuna pruriens, that little dopamine treat that we were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
And then ashwagandha, which is bringing in all this like plant antioxidant chemistry that is like normalizes sleep cycle, nourishes the thyroid, balances male and female hormones.
Yep.
Great for mild anxiety and depression, great for libido, great for mood. You get the picture. There's like, you start affecting a lot of different things. So
a lot of different systems.
We got 5 of these little guys stacked up, and then we got like, I'm like
dosing everyone.
2-3 milliliters of each of them, and so you got to think there's like, well, there's 50 ml in a bottle.
Yeah.
And we're doing 5 bottles with like, call it 2 mils. There's 10 mils, so 20% of a bottle into a glass of Topo Chico. And then you get to a workshop room full of people that have never had it before. And it's awesome.
It sounds great. I think I have to attend that. I'm going to make that my Santa Barbara trip.
Well, you can do that. And also you can do it at home too. You can go to the website. I think it's like some percentage off the normal price if you were to buy them individually. And you get the deck of 5 of all the Transcendent Elixirs together. And then you have like this really cool, like you were saying, covering a lot of the different body systems.
Yeah.
And you can put yourself on a full body, like, like little slingshot up and soar like a soaring squirrel or flying squirrel.
Soaring squirrel. Yeah, rocket ship up your desires totally out into the ethers. Yeah, I love this new line that you've created. It sounds amazing, and it was taking me back to my trips to India and just like seeing ash and like I just had this whole like memory of being in
ash on the face, ash
on
on the
the orange color. I was seeing all these like visions when you were talking about it. So I'm like, I gotta do the 5-set protocol.
If you go to the website and you actually order one of everything, that's called the Grand Prix. And I don't know if we made it. Maybe we made it. I can't remember if we made a name for the 5, but one little anecdote about the 5. Yeah. I was in recently, and before all the travel things and stuff, I was in New York and having lunch with a friend. So we got the Topo Chicos, and then we, as I'm going around the city, I'm like on a trip, I'm having a half dozen meetings a day, and I'm doing this for everyone.
Right,
so
yeah.
Imagine like, by about 3 in the afternoon, I'm just like.
Feeling good.
I'm completely on a roll, yeah. And so he and I are then walking around the city together after lunch for about 2 hours. And at some point he slaps me on the shoulder. He's like, man, I feel so good. Kind of like I'm high, but not like blurry, but like really good, but kind of like, elevated, like something's not normal. He goes, is it okay to feel like this? I mean, so you mean to tell me you're having this every day? Like, are you feeling like this every day? Because I don't know how I feel about, like, do I need to feel like this every day? I said, man, turn up the volume. Like, you know how many boring people are in this world? Like, just live completely feeling great and see what happens. It's like, you walk around just feeling great like that. And it's almost as if on a personal level, for me personally at least, I can't help but talk about it or want to share with people or different things like that. And so.
Yeah, and some people have no idea what it is like to feel good, and I think you hit on a key point there. It's like, if you can just have a taste of what it's like to feel good, and then from there transcend to that layer where you're feeling good all the time. I mean, that's like the best thing that you can ask for, And I hope that everyone listening out there is really feeling that and how important that is to them.
Well, thank you. And also, too, to have like an immense amount of compassion if people are not feeling good.
Exactly.
Because there's so many layers of things that we need to be able to live in conjunction with these days. Pardon me. I thought there was a wood tick on my stand over there. But nope, it's not a wood tick. There's so many things that we live under the layers of that, it's like when a person first comes in, they might be like kind of crabby and not that fun to be around because they
Right.
maybe are really not feeling good. And
Exactly.
the thing about it is to we can improve even if a little bit,
Right. Like a
tiny,
drop of improvement.
yeah, like a tiny
Hmm.
bit. And these things happen not like from, we don't need to judge where we're at, maybe if we're having a hard time, but look
Yeah.
forward to where we would like to end up. And we can step into a really empowering situation where taking small actions on a regular, consistent basis, like these sun potion herbs work best if you have them every day.
Like you were
And
talking
having
about
them,
at the beginning.
yeah, and having them as a practice where you keep them out special next to where you make your morning drink or something, and
Right.
doing a little bit in there, you're affirming to I'm affirming to myself, like I'm doing something conscious and intentional for solely for the purpose of benefit in my
Hmm.
body. And this is like a little nice beneficial thing I'm doing to take care of myself today. And that affirms it's a good place to start in the day.
Yeah.
I mentioned that compassion piece because just in this last week, tweaked my neck or my shoulder a
Oh
little bit.
no.
And I'm a person who's usually used to feeling pretty much 100% great all the time,
Hmm.
and got kind of immobilized for a few days. And
Mm.
I was like, wow, to uh, have the body like holding you back.
Hmm.
I mean, that's, yeah, just compassion. So
Yeah, I appreciate that piece that you brought up because it's so important. There are so many people all on the planet that are living in this space of disease or dysfunction, and having compassion, and at all different levels: physical, emotional, mental. And it's not just like
well,
one aspect.
there's a spectrum of density, right? So if you have a
Right.
spiritual problem that can turn into an emotional problem, that can turn
Mhm.
into a mental problem, that
Exactly.
inevitably, if you don't get around to solving, will become eventually a physical problem.
Right. And
This
another
is how
layer.
density and dimensionality of things
Yeah,
work.
exactly. Okay, well, oh my gosh, I think I could talk to you forever, but I know I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I do want to wrap things up today. Let's see, I want to ask you one more question, but let's just first highlight. So a great way for people to, one, find out about the Sun Potion products is to go to your website, correct? At sunpotion.com. And they can also go to follow you on Instagram, Sun Potion, and then
At some
also
question.
on Facebook too.
It's on Facebook. It's on those things. Yes. So
And
you
then
have
your,
some.
sorry,
Oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and your journal. That's the other thing that I wanted you to talk about is your newsletter / journal that is amazing. It's just all the different ways to use your products.
Okay, so we've really done a lot. I think. Well, I hope that the information is accessible, but it's like giving people a little bit of permission, a little bit of glimpse into like how these things can be a part of their life and help support and kind of just add to the betterment of what they're already doing in their good life. So
Mm-hmm.
um, to make that easy and accessible, people can look at sunpotion.com. They can look at Instagram at sunpotion. Common hashtags are things like hashtag a potion a day.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a brand hashtag that we started.
Nice.
Um, there is the Sun Potion Journal, which lives on sunpotion.com and is
Mm-hmm.
added to by third-party contributors both on Tuesdays and on Fridays
Awesome.
every week. And they do fun things in there like Dear Sun Potion, kind of a Dear Abby um, herbal take on things. These contributors, though, I am just humbled and overjoyed and so appreciative of the people who come forward and are really supportive of the brands, because when we released the journal, we got just a huge influx of people saying things like, ring, ring, hi, I work for Women's Wear Daily and Vice News and the New York Times, and I'm a writer and I freelance. But my wife and I, we really love Sun Potion, and we were just wondering, you have this journal now, could we please write articles for you? And it's like, oh, okay.
Okay, sure.
So there's professional writers, there's individual people, we have a female women's Olympic snowboarder that writes for us. There's a
Awesome.
lot of different kind of backgrounds of people that that kind of put in their 2 cents, and it's really just all in an effort to make things accessible for people, and for people to say like, oh, I could try that. Like,
Right.
I can do that at my kitchen. That's not so hard.
Yeah.
I can get into that.
Fun and easy and simple.
And if they go to the Instagram, they'll see things like Make Mondays Magical is basically every week or every other week we're doing giveaways. So there's kind of these brand collaborations with some really interesting brands, many of whom are either friends of mine or other people in our team. Like, you know, there's this like camaraderie of brands in the
Right.
natural, high vibe, best quality kind of spaces. And whether we're talking cosmetics or ingestibles or natural fiber Koyuchi bed sheets, or, you know,
Right.
100 things, you can sort of start tying webs together. So that's kind of a fun thing to interact with. We are
Nice.
always doing creative collaborations with artists. We've got a guy in FIFO Studios, which is a ceramic studio in Brooklyn that is just released well, we haven't released it yet, but a whole series of ceramic cups.
Ooh,
If you look
that's
on our
awesome.
website, there's things like you know, little special artisanal spoons and stuff that just
Oh
kind of
yeah.
make things special. There's a story and there's like a relationship behind all of these. So that was like a mother and a daughter who made those spoons and sent them to us as a gift. They just love Sun Potion. And we wrote back and said, wow, that's really cool. Like, you think you'd like to make hundreds of these? And they were like, oh my God, it bounces.
Sure. That's how it all life works, right?
Yeah. And uh, I know we're kind of wrapping up. I don't know if it, I don't know if it's, I think it's appropriate. There's a couple of things I'm kind of really proud of and I'm really excited
Yeah.
about that I'd like to
Please share.
share.
Yeah, please share.
That we've been able to kind of use the brand as a vehicle to participate in. And um, it's all lifestyle stuff, really. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, quality time, family, art, design, beauty, nature, um, these kind of different things, they really are informing the decisions that are being made in the brand and things like that. And so um, I, I'm pretty excited that Sun Pushin, we've been able to do some work over the last 3-4 years with the Boys and Girls Club here in the Central Coast.
Nice. I used to be a Boys and Girls Club member when I lived in San Diego.
I love that. I love that. They're all over the world. I mean, they're
Yep.
all over the place. And
Yep.
so just a phenomenal organization. And if people are not aware, they are just doing so much good. And Boys and Girls Club to me essentially does with their youth, their clients, what tonic herbs and what supplements in the form of Sun Potion do for the individual person. In other words, we're adding just a little bit of participatory, positive, beneficial thing every day, little bit, and over the course of time, we're going to end up with a different result.
Yeah.
And so these are preventative social measures because I live in the Central Coast of California. It's at Santa Barbara. I mean, it's like Montecito. These are some of the most profound enclaves of wealth in the Western world. And it's really a gifted place. That being said, there's also people that need a fair amount of help, not just in town here, but when you start going up the Central Coast and you get into more agrarian towns where they're predominantly Hispanic and both parents work and they have multiple jobs going all days a week. And there's a void there where if the Boys and Girls Club isn't there, they're in direct head count with Hispanic gangs in those communities for the kids. And so, I mean, we could get into stats, but basically, you know, most of these kids are getting subsidized meals in the mornings and at lunch at school, but then not for dinner. And so Boys and Girls Club feeds them organic food for dinner, and often feeds the parents too. The parents will come to pick the kids up, and they can stay and actually eat.
That's amazing.
And so, anyways, that's if you're not familiar with Boys and Girls Club, please go and check it out. They've got them all over the country. You can reach out to your local one. That's like such an awesome organization.
Yeah.
There's another one called Lunch on Me, which is an organization in downtown Los Angeles, and they provide organic meals for not just the homeless community, but also just street and urban downtown communities of Los
Mm-hmm.
Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's kind of a, there's a food desert down there, and
Right.
there's also profound kind of humanity and problems, heartbreaking problems
Yeah.
of homelessness going on down there. And so we recently moved some things around in our warehouse, and we were able to consolidate 3 like 6 or 7 foot high pallets
Mm-hmm.
of product.
What?
Yeah, and we donated all of it down to
Wow.
Lunch on Me, because it was stuff, the material is still good, but it
Mm-hmm.
was unsaleable for a number of different reasons. Maybe there was a discrepancy on the label, or there was
Right.
some,
Stuff
the label got
happens.
put on upside down or something,
Right.
things like that. And so, I mean, just that alone, that was on a retail value, that was like, I think it was like $120,000 worth of food.
Wow. That's amazing. Oh,
Yeah, that was just a couple weeks ago. So, I mean,
wow. What a great contribution.
and I'm not saying that to brag. What I'm saying that for is that my personal intention in starting the company was to have a way to like participate and be a part of life that I
Mm-hmm.
could maybe have a beneficial effect and help support people's lives or people's
Mm-hmm.
availability and choices of finding access to these kinds of herbs. But also
Yeah.
I really wanted to be of service. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's a part of the architecture and design of the company.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm, it's just so much fun to be able to even share that like with our employees, this philanthropic way of thinking of how do we give back to our community? How do we participate? How do we engage? How do we create a beneficial, outward, toroidal, growing,
Mm-hmm.
self-nurturing kind of
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah.
This
How
is
can we make a planetary impact? I mean, that's so important as a company. And circling back to what you said in the beginning about like, where you came from and meditating and Ojai and all that. I think it's like that kind of, is the vine that through your whole aspect of Sun Potion.
And we are at a time, I don't know what the time of release of this, but there is kind
Mm-hmm.
of some odd, we can say collectively, some odd social things going on with distancing and
Mm-hmm.
shutting down the towns and all these things.
Yeah.
Well, in a lot of ways, and perception wise, we could associate negative.
Right.
But I mean, it is my sincere hope, please, if people hear this, and if they haven't thought of it, I hope they think of it already. But what an
Mm-hmm.
immense opportunity to go and look at ourselves, to go within.
Mm-hmm.
What can I personally do to take
Mm-hmm.
more part of my life, to be more a part of my surroundings, to maybe create or do something that can be a beneficial attribute and contribution to
Mm-hmm.
my community? How can I give so that if everybody starts doing that, even if a tiny percentage of people start doing that,
Exactly. Yeah.
things start changing really, really fast.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I love doing business. I've learned about doing business through having Sun Potion, but Sun Potion is a great business. It's great because of those intentions of like, how do I show up and be of service? How do we create a
Mm-hmm.
project that can be a vehicle for being of service? So if people take this opportunity to please look at and maybe just start asking the existential soul question of what can I do to be a greater gift here? How can I be of service?
Yeah.
Show me my divine path of service. What can I do? I want to
Mm-hmm.
be helpful. Who knows what'll show up?
I know
It's
I
like
have
an amazing
yeah,
opportunity.
totally amazing opportunity and the best intentions for the new space that we're moving into, which, it's all forming.
We're
Hopefully
creating.
we're
Yeah,
creating
we're gonna be,
it.
or we're not. We have a choice. We can go passive and have it create all over us, or we can go,
Right.
I'm gonna see it like this.
I think the greater collective and consciousness that we both live in is going to step forward and create a new space and time and reality that's going to be amazing.
Please,
That's my
yes.
hope. Yeah.
It's already happening.
Yeah.
With that picture, it's like we see it and it's real, and we don't have to, then it's just a matter of showing up, show up, be nice, tell the truth, do it every day. Over
Yeah.
time, it just starts to take form, and then all kinds of manner of things are no
Totally.
longer ever different. You know, they're not the same anymore. The architecture changed. So,
Yeah.
yay.
Yay. I know. Yay. Well, thank you so much, Scott, for all your time today. It's been such a pleasure to meet you and to hear all about the amazing impact that you're making on this planet. So thank you again.
Thank you, and have a great day, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Be well.